Welcome to Oklahoma Office Hours, where you can spend a little bit of time in Oklahoma before you actually move here. So, I'm Marcie. I am an Oklahoma realtor and a lifelong local. On this show, we talk honestly about what life is actually like here. And I get in a lot of trouble for that sometimes. So, we'll talk more about that too. So we'll talk about neighborhoods, home buying, tornadoes, weird weather. Oh, we have a weather story from this past weekend. And of course, the hidden pros and cons that people sometimes don't realize until they actually get here. So if you're joining me live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, then I need your questions. I need you to drop them in the comments because I love answering you guys' questions. And that's what makes this show so interactive and informative for people. And if you're listening later on the podcast or YouTube or whatever, welcome and jump on live next time so that you can get your questions answered too. So I mentioned a podcast. I do upload this to Spotify and to Apple Podcasts so that you can listen while you're on the road if you don't want to see my face while we're talking. Okay. So I upload those typically on Friday mornings after like today's Tuesday, so it'll be Friday. Yeah. Okay. Goes by the same name, Oklahoma Office Hours. So you can find it there. Oh, excuse me. Okay. We're going to talk about Norman versus Moore versus Edmond. A lot of verses, but I get a lot of questions about the three of them. So I thought it would be cool to cover them like that. I also want to tell you the weird weather story from this weekend. So let's do it. Okay. Today is July 7th. So the weekend was, of course, the July 4th weekend, the big one. Oh my gosh, my cat is so mad at me. So you're going to hear her because she's like, Mom, you have been working literally the entire day. And she is meowing at me. So I have to tell her, like, we can't go outside until later, but she's all over it. She'll get tired of it here in a second and take a nap. She's climbing the wall. Maybe not. Okay, weird weather. So I was actually not at home all weekend. Me and my husband and my mother-in-law went to go visit. She's climbing the wall because she sees a bug. We went to go visit my parents. They live in Claremore. Claremore is 45 minutes, 30-ish, whatever, northeast of Tulsa. So it's like a 2.5 hour drive for us to get there. We do it all the time. It's fine. And yes, we took the cats and the dog as well. So lots of people and personalities all together in one home. But July 4th, like, we don't go anywhere. We were at home at my parents', and like, when I say the wind blew in, like, I don't, like, it was like Mary Poppins, like whoosh, it was amazing. And like we found out later, of course, it was 60-mile-per-hour winds there in Claremore. Really bad, it's pretty fast. But in Norman, where I actually live, but I wasn't there at the time, there were 90-mile-per-hour winds. And they got most people's like 90 miles per hour. Like, that's like, when I drive 90 miles per hour, I'm like freaked out with myself, right? So it was powerful in my neighborhood. And I live in a newer neighborhood, so we don't have big trees. We have small trees. We have one large tree that if it, went away, I would probably cry because I love it so much. Like, I don't know, it's probably like 100 and something years old. It's amazing. But in our normal, yards, it's like little trees because I've lived here for 4 years, that kind of thing. So, we we in my neighborhood, a lot of fences are down. One of my mushrooms bit the dust. When I say mushroom, like, not a live mushroom, it's just like a glass blown mushroom that like lights up at night. So I really like things like that. And But then in other neighborhoods with like big trees, I mean, trees are split in half and fallen into houses and all sorts of fun stuff. So lots of people were without power. Most people, I believe, got it back last night, their power, like late last night. They said that the amount of bucket trucks sitting at Lloyd Noble, so, like, a bucket truck is how they, fix power lines and different things. So, there were so many of them sitting at Lloyd Noble. Lloyd Noble is, where we, where the, like, basketball games are played, things like that here in Norman, so it's just got the biggest parking lot in town, so that's where everyone parks. But yeah, it was a crazy storm. Like, I could see in the distance, it was a clear sky, right? So then all I could see when the wind blew in was just dust because it's, I guess the African dusts are here or whatever. It was crazy. So we will talk a little bit about weather as we go through this town stuff because people have varying concerns about some of these towns and weather, even though they're all very similar. So, yeah. Okay. Norman versus Moore versus Edmond. And first off, if you are joining me live, I really want to know where you're from. If you're watching later, you can comment. I would love that if you did that. Just comment where you're from. Like if you're thinking of moving to Oklahoma, maybe you just moved here. Like I want to know. So let's get that question answered. So the vibe. Norman versus Moore. Edmond is on the other side of Oklahoma City. So if you're looking at Oklahoma City, Edmond is directly to the north. Moore is directly to the south, and Norman is south of Moore. Like I said, I live in Norman. I do live in North Norman. It takes me 10 minutes to get to Costco. I don't go to Costco. My husband goes to Costco, but I don't really like it there. It's very big, but it's close, right? All of these places do tend to kind of come together and like form a big city because that's what it is. So Norman is a college town. And some people, I have noticed this a lot. Some people believe that that's all we have is college, like the University of Oklahoma that's located here. And that's not true. uh, Norman's a town of like 128,000 people. I don't know how many times I have recited that statistic in my life, but it is a lot. The third largest city in Oklahoma. People have fought me on this, saying that like, oh, Lawton's bigger. Oh, blah, blah, blah is bigger. No, no. Norman is the third largest city. It goes Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Norman. That's how this works. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Look it up. That's the stat. University is big, 25,000-ish students, I believe. And it's the largest university in Oklahoma. But fun fact, a lot of like when I was in school, so I graduated in 2011 from OU. Yes, you can figure out how old I am from there. A lot of students, I would ask them like, oh, why did you live in Dallas? Like, why did you come to the University of Oklahoma? And they're like, oh, because it's such a small school. It's like got a great vibe. I'm like, a small school? Like to me, it was huge because I was from this like town of 15,000 people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm going to a town of 128,000 people. And it really wasn't that big at that time. It was like 90,000. And I was totally freaked out by just the sheer size of the town and the university. But for Texas kids, that is not how they think about it. So yeah, it was small pickings to them. But we have other things. One of the things, and I drive by it every day, is Bosch. So that's Johnson Controls. It's what it used to be. It's York. They make like I'm talking about jobs at this point. So they make like commercial HVAC systems. If I lose my words, it's because my first appointment this morning was at 8:30 and now it's 7. So I'm feeling the burn. I did take a nap. So I'm very glad for that for me. So we have that as a place to work. Of course, the city of Norman's a huge employer, Norman Public Schools, which we'll talk more about later on. It's more than just the university. And yes, you feel the vibe of the university while you're in town. But the further you get from it, the less you feel it. Like whenever investors talk to me, they're like, oh, well, the only people that live there are like students. No, it's not the only people that live here. This is a thriving community that happens to be built around this university, the University of Oklahoma. That and yes, I work with a lot of professors, a lot of them, which is awesome, and they do bring a certain, energy to the town, which is fun. So then we have more. More it has this extreme sort of small town vibe, I would say. Um, it's less it's more conservative. I'm just gonna be honest with you, and you can see that in the voting and, like, how it works, but it's more conservative than Norman is. So, I don't know a different way to say it, but there it is. Um, People are very proud of their town, very, very proud of their town, and a lot of people have lived in Moore for a very long time, and I get it because it's very nice, and honestly, the government is great. Like, they run the town as a business. And it really they do things well. Sometimes in Norman, we're a little bit frustrated, but in Moore, I think they've done a very good job. They've had a lot of setbacks, like the tornadoes of 1999 and 2013. Those were huge, wiped out like a mile of the town, like a lot. Like that doesn't sound like much, but like wiped it to, the bare slate of nothingness. I witnessed the 2013 one. It was a lot. But the way they built back makes a lot of sense, and it's driven prices up, which is really good for the community. It's brought in a lot of new businesses. Costco, I mean, we couldn't get Costco in Norman, but we have it in Moore, which is amazing, good stuff. One thing I will mention about Moore and the rest of these is I do classify everything by school district. And the reason I do that is because it makes more sense. So I do it for Norman. Norman's pretty cut and dry. Like, if you live in Norman address, you're probably going to be in Norman school district, like most likely. Edmond, pretty similar. Like, there's some exceptions, 100%, but most of the time that's how it's going to work. Moore is a different story. Moore is completely surrounded by Oklahoma City and Norman. So when you look at it, you're like, it's so tiny. It's like 60,000 people. I think that's the population right now, 60,000. But the school district is huge. And it's bigger than Norman's. And the reason is because that the parts of Oklahoma City that are located in Cleveland County are also in Moore School District. So a lot of what I talk about, and when I get to the houses, you'll see that like I was like, oh, how many new homes are in Moore School District? If I just looked up new homes in Moore, just the city itself, we wouldn't have very much to see. But most people, like, you can't tell the difference between Oklahoma City and Moore. You're driving, you cross the street, you're suddenly in Oklahoma City. Yes, the roads will change names. It happens a lot. But basically, Oklahoma City gobbled up all the land around Moore. And of course, Norman has all that land to the south of it. And that's, there's no going back on that. But all of those Oklahoma City addresses that are in Cleveland County, because that's where Norman and Moore are located, they're going to be in Moore School District. Okay? So that's why otherwise it would be like it would be super weird if I only included like Moore proper. I can, and a lot of people just want to live in Moore and like not in the Oklahoma City part, but sometimes you really don't have many choices within Moore itself because of the situation with the city limits. Okay, Edmond. What is the vibe of Edmond? I live in Norman, so keep that in mind. Definitely growing really fast. They do have a university. It is a public university, and it is not as big. Not nearly. I think it's the third largest university in Oklahoma after the University of Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, and then this one. I think so. I need to check that. I might be wrong. I feel like there might be another one. I know what it is, but we'll say it's the third largest, and you can correct me, and I will love that. Edmond definitely feels very planned. There's so many new homes, and it is a smaller city than Norman. It's about 90-ish thousand people. It's expensive. and it's very close to Oklahoma City in a different way because it's on the north side. Some other words that could be used to describe Edmond are polished. Um, I could use some other ones, but they won't be as nice. It's fine. I do like, I go to Edmond a lot. It's fine. It's not that far from Norman in theory. We just don't like driving there. They do sell a lot of houses there. And they do have a lot of new houses. And the infrastructure is quite good because just like the way they run their stuff. So, and the downtown is very cute. I do have like a favorite bookstore in downtown Edmond. So I visit there as often as I can. Okay. Let's talk about price for houses. That's probably why some of you are here. So what does your money get you in these towns? Should have put something behind my back because like I'm feeling that, the pain of the work. Okay, so median home prices across all three of these. So the median home price right now in Norman is going to be around that $280,000 mark. It's always funny when I look at people's faces after I say that because, like, most people, because I work with people, like a lot of people from Pennsylvania right now, and then California and Arizona, and they're like, "What? Like 280,000?" Yes, $280,000. When I started in real estate 10 years ago, it was 160,000. So different. It's gone up a lot. So we have that for Norman. For Edmond, the average or the median, whatever house price is like 390,000. So that is more than $100,000 more. Okay. And then in more, we're talking like mid 200,000s, like 250 to 260,000. So you can definitely get a lot of house and more that you maybe didn't or can't get in Edmond, especially. And Norman too. Norman can be frustrating when it comes to what is available and on the market and what is listed for. So a lot of my normal clients, regular clients, whatever, a lot of people tend to look at new homes with me. And I think a lot of that is because we here in Oklahoma, you can get a new home that's pretty inexpensive, and there's a lot of them. So, and a lot of other places, you just can't really get new homes or they're not very good. So yeah, I see this a lot. So what I have pulled for us here is new construction listings by school district. And like I said, I'm doing that for a reason. I explained it, yada, yada. So new construction homes built in 2025 or newer. So we still do have like new construction homes do tend to sit on the market longer than other homes. So like, I mean, it's common to see them on the market for 6 to 8 months. A lot of times builders won't even they'll put them on the market like when they're at like sheetrock. So they're not even done. And it's really hard to look at homes that are not done. Like it's ugly and small. So that's why. So when we look at Norman, there are 85 new builds for sale. When we look at Moore School District, there are 125 new builds for sale. And these are just numbers from today. This changes obviously a lot. For Edmond School District, there are 269 new builds for sale. So 85 in Norman, 125 in Moore, and 269 in Edmond. That's a big difference. It's a huge difference. There are just a ton of new builds in Edmond. Like you do have a lot to pick from. Okay, so what does that look like? Like what kind of prices? Because you're like, cool, but if those are $1 million, like I don't want them. I get that. So under $300,000, because that's a great price point. Very affordable. They're usually going to be closer to the 300 than to the 200, I will tell you. So keep that in mind. So like right now in Norman, we have 17 brand new homes under $300,000. Most of these are gonna be 1,100 square feet. I'm just telling you right now, so you can be prepared, okay? Have fun. So 17 new builds under 300K. In Moore, there are 33. That's Moore school district, so a lot of those are gonna be in Oklahoma City, but they're in Moore school district. So still Moore, still gonna have access to that lovely Costco. So 33 new homes, and in Edmond, under 300K, there are 10 because that is not the price point that they're operating at. Okay. From the 300 to 400, we have 27. Really common price range. I show a lot of new builds from 300,000 to 400,000. That's like, I mean, you're looking at 1,500 square feet on the north side of Norman, 1,800, 1,700 on the south side of Norman, and all the way up to 2,000 square feet. It just depends on where you are a little bit too. But that's a pretty great price point. That's closer to the 300. When you get up to the 400, of course, it's going to be a little bit bigger than that, depending on where it is. Location is a really, really big deal. I mean, you've heard that. Real estate is location, location, location. For more from 300 to 400, we have 32 listings. So that's more school districts. So just slightly more. And I do notice that. And then in Edmond, there are 48. So we're going to have a lot more. I hate saying more in the city of Moore. Like, it's really frustrating in my head. But we have more options in Edmond for sure. And some of those are going to be in Guthrie. They're still going to be Edmond School District. So you have to keep that in mind. Also, kind of depends on your location. If you're more in Western Edmond, then it's different. It's flatter. It's windier. All those things. If you're in Eastern Edmond, it's going to be hillier and prettier. So yeah, the sweet spot that I usually see for what I've seen my clients want for a new build has been between 400 and 500,000. So that's typically because we're getting over that 2,100 square foot, and you can comfortably have 4 bedrooms. Okay. So in Norman right now, there are 20 or 14 listings. So not very many, probably because I've sold them. And then in Moore School District, there are 22. And then up in Edmond, we have 46. So once we hit over that 500K for Norman, we don't have very many listings at all. I think it's because, and this is a conjecture on my end, those are customs. Like, at that price point, I see people building custom. So that those homes that are not for sale, they're bought. They are already, someone's already taken them. So they're never going to hit the market. In Moore, we have a few more homes, but that's just because we're going to hit that Oklahoma City as well. And what you got to know, and I've seen this more so, I can find you a home on an acre or a half acre in Oklahoma City that's also in Cleveland County for $500,000. So you can't get that in Norman, but you could get that in Oklahoma City. And I know that sounds crazy. People are like, but it's the city, it's the city, it's the city. It's not. It's the country. These areas are just, they're developed in that there's a road, but there's no city water. There's city water in most of the spots. There's no septic. There's no like city septic. So it does not feel like Oklahoma City, but that is what I'm seeing as a really nice spot in the Oklahoma City. Like, if you're headed more towards Tinker, we have options over there for new builds. If you're more towards the airport or the western side, then you have these beautiful new builds that are available on large lots, and people really like them, and that's why there's not as many available. And then in Edmond, we have quite a few available, like 40 listings between 500 and 600,000. And a lot of these will be on city lots, but then a lot, like, you're gonna have options that are on bigger lots, like half acre lots and acre lots. Okay. So there are just going to be more new build options in Edmond. Part of it, you're like, why? Yes, I hear you. I hear you asking why. Because Edmond has more land available that's usable. Norman we have a lot of flood areas, and Edmond doesn't. So Edmond is it once you drive it, you'll be like, "Oh, that's what she was talking about." Like, it's just like this open feeling pastures and the rolling plains. Norman is a riverbed. I like Norman, and it's always interesting to see North Oklahoma City and Edmond too. So another part of this, of course, is the schools. So as you already saw, I split everything up by school systems, and that makes it easier on me. Um, Edmond schools are ranked really highly when you look online. Norman and Moore aren't ranked as highly. You can go to niche.com or greatschools.org. Those are two of the big ones that people use. What I always tell people as well is to go and get in Facebook groups and like search. And also, so my mom she was a public school teacher. So I have many opinions, but it's going to depend on many factors, what kind of experience your child may have in school. And there are like in each school district, there are so many different schools. Like in Norman, we have 2 high schools and we have 3 middle schools and we have, I think, 12, 11 elementary schools, or maybe less than that. And then in Moore, there are even more. There's so many elementary schools. And then we have 3 high schools. And I don't know how many middle schools. I can't remember at all. Edmond has 3. Yes. And then in my stuff here, like I did Edmond, but I didn't include Deer Creek. I didn't include areas like Piedmont. Like Deer Creek is it's like a town, but it's like less of a town and it's more Edmond, but they have their own schools. So other things for you to look into. But get in groups, do some extra digging because it's it's all about so many different pieces go into the public school experience. And Oklahoma is ranked 50th in public school education, in public school education. Yep. We weren't always ranked 50th, but we are now. And that's something to take into consideration and, think about as we're selling you Oklahoma. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Okay. There are private schools available in all of these towns, of course. A lot of them are parochial, which means they are religious. Some of them aren't, but most of them are going to be the bigger ones. Like in Norman, it's community Christian. Moore really doesn't have any, like, if people who live in Moore want their kid to go to a private school, they're going to drive them. Like that's what I've found, and that makes sense. Just because Moore is just not big, very big. And then Edmond has private schools as well, some of the highest rated ones. So you would have to do your research. Man, I'm not finding words today. You'd have to do your research to really figure out which one fits for your lifestyle and where you want your kid to be. I had this conversation today with someone about commute and location logic. Actually, with 2 someones today. So the first person I talked to, she she was so fun, like so fun to talk to. But they're looking at being close to lakes and like being in the country. The second person I talked to wanted trees and to kind of be more in the country, which is a typical thing. You're moving to Oklahoma, like you're most of the time like not looking to live in a high rise, you know what I mean? So who lives in these different places? Who lives in Edmond? Well, there are lots of jobs in Edmond. A lot of people are going to work in Oklahoma City. Edmond, Oklahoma City is an easy drive. Whole Foods is located, and I'm saying this and you're like, well, I don't care about Whole Foods. I know. Just listen for a second. Whole Foods is located it's like in Nichols Hills, which is a city within a city of Oklahoma City. It's a lot of cities. that I said. So, yes, keep that in mind. Um, between on the south side of Oklahoma City, it's a very different vibe. There are going to be less like corporate jobs. Okay. Um, yeah. So a lot of people in Edmond, they're going to work in Oklahoma City. They may, of course, work in Edmond as well. It's a different like job environment. Okay. And then for Norman, a lot of people work at OU or something affiliated to OU. That is the biggest employer. But a lot of people drive to Oklahoma City every single day. I know a ton of people who do. And especially like OU Medical. So still the University of Oklahoma, but the hospital, because it's a very important hospital for our state. There's of course all the Capitol building stuff, which is right there by OU Medical. To get to downtown, like I have friends that work like at Devon or whatever, and it depends on where you are in Norman, but it's a 30-minute drive. And our traffic, like the traffic going into the city in the morning, is not great. Like whether you're going from Edmond or Norman or more into the city, like everyone else is also going into the city. And then in the afternoons, it's the opposite, of course. Um, yeah. So let's see. I've how do I want to say this? So what I have seen is that people struggle between choosing between Norman and Edmond. And a lot of times they really need to choose more. Because like that makes the most sense. Why would you not do this? Um but it's like all about listening and driving these routes. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, I'm used to driving. I'm from California." Yeah, yes, yes. But once you're here for a little bit, you won't be a Californian anymore. You're gonna be an Okie. And we don't really like things to be difficult. So, something to take into consideration. Listen to people as they're telling you, like, this drive is gonna suck for you in like 6 months. The question you want to ask yourself is, where am I actually going every day? Um, and how do you want that drive to look? How many hours of your life do you want it to add up to? So, Norman to Oklahoma City, where in Oklahoma City? That's always my first question. If you're driving to the north side, to the Northwest Expressway, then like I don't think you should live in Norman. That's crazy. Unless like you really need to or the house is free. Yeah, that would be tough. Then you also have like I know people that drive from Edmond to Stillwater. Stillwater's not even in the metro, but it's a pretty easy drive. So something else to think about. There are definitely options to get you what you want and to move with the traffic and how it's going to affect your daily life. Okay. Um, I'm not even really covering like Oklahoma, like we've talked about Oklahoma City when it comes to more, because that's a lot of times where I sell. But there are just so many options of like places to work. Most of those like huge employers living in those outskirts of Oklahoma City where you're still in the Oklahoma City limits, it's going to be a really nice thing for you because you're going to feel like you're close in to your job, like 20 minutes from Tinker, if that's where you're working, but also like on an acre lot. That'll be really nice. Okay, lifestyle, amenities. How do we live in these towns? What is there to do? Well, Norman and Edmond are biggest. We both have like arts nights and things like that in both towns. Herd on Herd, Herd Heard on Herd Hurd. So that's a road. That's an Edmond thing. And then we have like an art walk thing in Norman. We also have lots of festivals in Norman. Edmond just finished up one of their festivals. I think it's called Liberty Fest, and it's like a 10-day thing for the 4th of July. So things like that. In terms of other things to do, so Edmond and Norman both have a great amount of restaurants. I am so sad that that Edmond seems to be surpassing Norman in terms of delicious food. And I am I know why, and it's frustrating. Norman tends to pull a lot of chains where Edmond doesn't pull as many, or they have them, but then they also have local places, which is a bit frustrating. But I think it's the cities, like Norman City, like making it more difficult for people. That's what I've noticed. And maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know. And Edmond making it not so difficult for people. Also, like it's just easier to access Edmond from Oklahoma City, so oftentimes I'll have more people because of that. And there's other towns around Edmond as well, and there's other towns around Norman, but, it's a different vibe. So things in Edmond, close to, like, the Whole Foods area, there's a lot of interesting things going on up there. The downtown of Edmond is very nice. Like I said, tons of like local restaurants and things to do, concerts and events and blah blah blah. But we have access to all of that in Moore and in Norman as well. It's just like proximity really is everything, right? Let's see. Moore has been growing fast, like we said, big school district. They do have a lot of chains and more. Like, there are some, like, local places. There are definitely good ones. There are good options for local restaurants, and it's not Edmond, but neither is Norman. Norman is not Edmond when it comes to that. Like, I have a list, a great list of all of the places that I like to eat in Norman, Moore, and Edmond, and Edmond just wins when it comes to food. And a lot of times shopping in general. Also, like cars, like I have a Mercedes, it's an older Mercedes, and there is no Mercedes dealership in Norman. It's in Edmond, so we have to take my car there. Handsome's car has to go to Edmond. So it's sucks, but it is what it is. That's where we're at. We really believe that sometimes the city of Norman makes things difficult for businesses. And it's not something we can like put our finger on, but it's like you just kind of know what's happening, right? You just know it. Healthcare access, hospitals. So in Norman, we have Norman Regional, and you're gonna find the biggest one just right down the street from where I live in North Norman. There is an emergency room down south, and then there's another like larger, not just emergency room, but more than that in Moore as well. So that's where that is. And then you have OU Medical. So that's in Oklahoma City. And then there's Baptist and Integris. Those are in Oklahoma City. And then there's Marcie, which is also in Oklahoma City, but very close to Edmond. So way north. Like I have to drive there on Friday. I'm so excited at 8:00 in the morning. Actually, before 8:00. It'll be so great. I'm so excited for that. But I see a lot of people like recommending Marcie, and for people that live on the south side, it is very far because it is way, way up there when you're looking at the map. So maybe something to look into if that's a concern of yours is like, oh, which doctor conglomerate am I going to do most of my doctoring in? Is it going to be Marcie? Is it going to be Baptist? Is it going to be Norman? Like, take that into consideration depending on how much you have to go. Recreation, outdoors stuff and parks, like I love the outdoors. Like after this, I go on my walk and like all this stuff. There's parks everywhere, and it's just a matter of me. It's the trees. I need trees in order to not die of heat stroke. Like right now it's hot, so it sucks because like the houses at least will throw shade, but throw shade. That's fun. But yeah, it's tough, right? So like in Edmond, there are a few different parks they're great, like 1 or 2 mile trails. There are some in North Oklahoma City as well. What I always want is like something bigger or something like less concrete, more trail, but it's so tough to come by. And I know that it's hard to like keep up, like maintain those kinds of trails. I get it. But yeah, um, one thing that Norman has that these other places don't is a state park. So Norman has Lake Thunderbird State Park, and they just redid all of our hiking and bike trails. And I haven't been out there yet. Usually the main complaint I hear about that park is the ticks. So I had never gone before, but now since they've cleaned up the trails, I'm very excited to check it out. But I also have to spray myself down with DEET in order to get down there. So yeah. Um, would I say they're all equal? I don't know. I feel like Norman has better, but also like in Edmond, you have Lake Arcadia, which is a really great area for hiking. You can go to Guthrie, which has some really great treed hiking, and it's so much closer. Like I've gone, but it's just like super far for me. Um, it's a hard argument. Other recreation, like all of these cities have pretty good leagues, I think. I don't do social sports because I have to socialize with everyone in my, everyday work life. So I'm an introvert and I don't do those things, but I know there are like softball is a huge deal in Norman, huge. For adults, I just don't do that kind of sport. Like I'd rather be by myself, but and I know that Edmond has something similar. So it kind of depends on like what you want your extracurricular activities to be outside of your normal work or whatever home life. So, yeah. Um okay, Norman. The people I see that want to move here want a bit of culture. They want kind of this older house vibe or maybe something brand new or they're working at the university. Um Edmond, there's so much new construction available, like, so much new construction available. You saw that with what I was, talking about with just the sheer numbers. People love the schools, and I've also heard people say that, like, the schools are jam-packed to the gills with kids. So, that is something that you need to look up for yourself. Um, Edmond definitely has that polished feel, like the country club vibe at times, not everywhere, but a lot of places. And then you have more, so, like, my brother-in-law lives in Moore, and it's just, like, perfect for him to get to his, like, South OKC job. So easy to get to, like there's a Sam's Club, there's a Costco, there's a Walmart, there's a Target, like, all on the same street. On the same street. Everything is just so centralized, and they have a really great rec center and more. Like, I'm super jealous because in Norman, ours is not good. So our YMCA is woo, but in Moore, they have a great one. So it all like I think all of these places are decently equal. I'm always going to love Norman the best because I like it the best. But ultimately, like you have to find what fits your lifestyle. And I think all of those places, hopefully I did a decent description for you on those, but something that you can like imagine and do a little bit more research on for yourself. So I put a QR code up on the screen. If you have more questions, you feel free to contact me. You can find me at that QR code. If you're listening or like, oh no, like, no, I need something to click on, like that's fine. It's in the description, it's in the show notes. Find that QR code, find that link that says contact Marcie and give me a call. It usually takes you to my website and has you fill out like a short, like, what do you need? And I'll give you a call. But I would love to talk to you and see what more questions I can answer for you about living in Oklahoma. I will see you guys next time.